Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld greets the president.
December 8th, 1953. On this date, U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower made a landmark speech to the United Nations. In the speech, Eisenhower unveiled his Atoms for Peace plan.
To hasten the day when fear of the atom will begin to disappear from the minds of people and the governments of the East and West, there are certain steps that can be taken now.
The plan called for the U.S. to share nuclear technology with other countries. U.S. officials said the plan would harness nuclear energy for the common good of mankind, but the main goal was control.
We thought that, and rightly so, that these other nations would probably eventually acquire this nuclear technology on its own. So why not cut a deal with them? Our deal was that we would provide nuclear technology and highly rich uranium and research reactors to other nations if they promised not to develop nuclear weapons.
The Soviet Union also soon began sharing nuclear technology with other countries. But instead of encouraging the peaceful use of nuclear energy, many now believe the Atoms for Peace program has done the opposite. Over the years, the U.S. has given away crucial bomb-making fuel to potentially hostile nations. That fuel was highly enriched uranium, the easiest pathway to an atomic bomb. Now Iran has U.S.-made fuel, so does Romania and 31 other nations. Terrorists also have easy access to the fuel, which is a threat now to major urban areas like Chicago.
You have an explosion that is much more powerful than any chemical weapon could produce. You would kill literally hundreds of thousands of people.
By the early 70s, top officials in the U.S. Energy Department had reached the desperation point. The U.S. needed to get this fuel back and had a drastic plan to do so. The man enlisted to execute this plan was University of Chicago scientist Armando Travelli. Travelli, who worked at the federal government's Argonne National Laboratory in suburban Lamont, thought this would take 5 years, but he was wrong. His quest to retrieve nuclear materials spanned 4 decades and 6 continents.
What did these countries say when we initially said, you know, we would sort of like this nuclear material back? What was their reaction?
Their reaction was that their reaction was yes, that it was working perfectly, and they had no intention of changing things that would make their life and the experiments in that reaction more difficult.
Was Travelli ultimately successful in this quest? The answer to that question is one that should concern every citizen in the United States and throughout the world. For the Chicago Tribune, I'm Wes Bleed.